All right, so welcome to our deep dive. And today we're going to be tackling The Secret by Rhonda Byrne, which has pretty much become like a self-help Bible at this point. It makes a lot of promises, attracting anything you desire just through the power of like positive thinking. But does it really live up to the hype? That's what we're here to find out today.
Yeah, it's certainly captured a lot of imaginations. I think over the years, millions of them. Byrne taps into this really old idea of the law of attraction, and she presents it in this way that feels almost, well, magical. But that's also kind of where some of the controversy is.
Yeah, because I mean, if all you had to do is think positive thoughts to solve all your problems, wouldn't life be easier? So today we're going to unpack the core ideas in The Secret and explore some of the techniques it advocates for. We'll delve into like both the potential and some of the pitfalls, and we'll even touch on a little bit of the neuroscience behind it all.
Yeah, that's actually what's so fascinating to me is how The Secret takes this really complex concept of like attracts like and just boils it down into this seemingly simple three-step process. Ask, believe, receive. But then when you really think about it, each one of those steps has like layers of psychological complexity.
Yeah, so let's unpack that a little. So Byrne uses this anecdote about a man who was able to manifest parking space like every day. He would just drive around a busy city, totally convinced that like a perfect spot would just open up for him, and it always did. So is that really the law of attraction, or could it be something else?
Yeah, that is the million-dollar question. So, I mean, let's think about this. Let's say this guy, he's parking in the same area every day around the same time. I mean, statistically, the odds of finding a spot open might be higher than we think. Plus, if he believes it so strongly, maybe he's just more observant. Like he's quicker to spot an open spot that somebody else might miss. It's kind of classic example of how belief can influence your perception.
So maybe it's not really magic, but like a combination of probability and heightened awareness. Okay, that makes sense. But what about those bigger goals, like attracting love or attracting wealth?
Right, well, that's where the secret gets into things like vision boards and affirmations, which are really fascinating when you think about all the neuroscience behind visualization. I mean, there's more and more evidence that if you vividly imagine something you want, it can actually activate the same neural pathways as actually experiencing it.
Really? So, like, just by making a vision board with pictures of our dream house or our ideal partner, we're tricking our brains into thinking it's already happened.
Well, to some extent, yeah. And it's not just about the visual stuff either. Like by engaging all your senses when you're doing these visualizations, feeling the emotions, hearing the sounds, you can create a much more immersive experience, and that strengthens those neural connections. It's kind of like laying down this mental blueprint for the reality you want.
Wow, that's incredible. But what about affirmations? How does just repeating positive statements over and over play into this?
Affirmations are interesting. They really tap into the power of self-suggestion. Think about it this way. If you keep telling yourself, I am confident, over and over, your brain's going to start to believe it. And over time, that can actually lead to real changes in your behavior and your self-perception. It's kind of similar to how athletes use self-talk to help boost their performance.
So it's like we're rewiring our brains for success, one positive statement at a time.
That is a great way to put it. And Byrne offers some pretty compelling examples to back this idea up. Like this one woman who was able to visualize herself healing from a chronic illness. She just pictured herself being healthy and kept repeating all these affirmations about her body being able to heal. And eventually, she actually made a full recovery.
That's a really powerful story. But do you think it's possible that maybe her positive attitude just helped her cope with her illness better? Maybe it just made the whole healing process feel easier.
Yeah, that's certainly possible. And that's where we need to be careful. While positive thinking can definitely have a big impact, it's not like a cure-all. We can't just discount the role of medical treatment or genetics or any other factors that are kind of beyond our control.
Exactly. And I think that's one of the main criticisms that people have of The Secret, that it maybe oversimplifies really complex issues and could give people this false sense of hope. Like, it's not like we can just wish away serious problems like poverty or systemic discrimination.
Right, and that's where the book's focus on personal responsibility could be problematic. It's one thing to take ownership of your own thoughts and actions, but to say that people who are going through hardship just haven't mastered their mindset enough, I don't know.
Yeah, because sometimes those external circumstances are the main obstacle, not just a lack of positive thinking. And that brings us to another really important point. There isn't a lot of scientific evidence to back up a lot of the book's claims.
That's true. Well, there's definitely a lot of new research coming out about visualization and affirmations and positive psychology. It's still a relatively new field. We just don't have enough proof yet that thinking positive thoughts can magically make your desires come true.
So it sounds like it's important to approach The Secret with like a healthy dose of skepticism and not take everything as the absolute truth. But even with all those caveats, there's something really appealing about the idea that we have more control over our lives than we realize.
Oh, for sure. And that's where the focus on gratitude in the book comes in. Byrne really argues that gratitude is like this magnet for abundance. And that's an idea that resonates with people even outside the context of the law of attraction.
Definitely. She has all those stories about people who like achieved financial independence through gratitude practices, where they would just spend time every day focusing on what they were thankful for. And that seemed to like open them up to receiving even more.
It's hard to say if that's a direct result of the law of attraction or just like a byproduct of having a more positive outlook. But what's clear is that gratitude can have a huge impact on how we feel.
Right. And there's tons of research that shows that being grateful can reduce stress, improve sleep. It can even boost your immune system. So even if we don't buy into the whole idea of manifesting $1 million just by thinking about it, there's still a lot of value in just being grateful for what we have.
For sure, it's about shifting your focus from what you don't have to what you do have.
Mm-hmm.
And that can be really powerful.
Okay, so we've touched on the core idea of like attracts like, the three-step process, and even a little bit of the science behind visualization and affirmations. But how does The Secret actually apply to specific things like money or relationships?
Well, when it comes to money, the book encourages you to visualize abundance and to shift your mindset from scarcity to this belief that there's more than enough for everybody. It's about rewiring your brain to see opportunities instead of limitations.
Okay, and for relationships.
It's all about focusing on self-love and visualizing the qualities you want in a partner. The idea is that if you put out love and positive energy, you'll attract a partner who has those same traits.
And Byrne even shares a story about someone who found their ideal partner after trying these principles. Like they just visualized their perfect match and focused on those good qualities they wanted, and they let go of any negative beliefs they had about themselves.
But here again, we have to think about the other factors. Like maybe by focusing on self-love, this person just became more confident and that made them more attractive to others. Or maybe they were just more open to meeting someone new.
Yeah, like that saying, you find love when you're not looking for it. Maybe it's not about actively searching, but just creating the right environment in yourself to attract a good relationship.
Right, exactly.
Well, it's a good reminder that while the law of attraction might be a factor, it's probably not the only thing at play. We can't forget about the importance of taking action in the real world and being open to whatever life throws at us.
That's what makes this whole deep dive so interesting. It's not about just accepting or rejecting everything in The Secret, but about looking at it closely and figuring out what makes sense based on our own experiences and what we know about the world.
Well said. And I think we've covered some good ground here, but there's still so much more to explore.
Absolutely. There's always more to uncover. Let's dive a little deeper into some of the details and complexities of The Secret and see what other insights we can find. One of the things that I find really interesting about The Secret is this whole concept of aligning your actions with your intentions. Like, it's not enough to just sit around visualizing success, right? You actually have to, do something.
Oh, yeah, for sure. It's like they say, the universe doesn't deliver DoorDash. You still got to get off the couch and answer the door.
Exactly. So you might visualize that new job you want. That's great. But you also got to update that resume, do some networking, and send in those applications. Byrne really emphasizes that taking what she calls inspired action is essential for making your desires a reality.
Makes sense. It's kind of like you're creating the synergy between your inner world and your actions in the real world.
Exactly. And it's all about becoming what Byrne calls a deliberate creator of your reality. So you're not just passively waiting for good things to happen. You're taking an active role in shaping your life through the choices you make.
So it's not about giving up responsibility, but actually taking on even more.
I think that's a really good way to put it. But this is also where some of the criticism of The Secret comes in. Critics say that it oversimplifies situations like poverty or systemic injustice, putting way too much emphasis on personal responsibility and not enough on all the external factors that play a role.
Yeah, that's a valid point. Life's not always fair, and there are a lot of things that are just out of our control. Someone could be working incredibly hard and still struggling financially because of all these systemic barriers.
Right, exactly. And while having a positive attitude can definitely be helpful for navigating tough situations, it's not a magic solution. We got to acknowledge how complex the real world is and avoid blaming people for circumstances that are mostly out of their control.
It's like that saying, privilege is when you think something isn't a problem because it's not a problem to you.
Exactly. We have to be aware of our own biases and acknowledge the systemic factors that contribute to inequality. The secret can be a great tool for personal growth, but we have to be careful how we use it. We don't want to perpetuate harmful narratives.
So while the secret might be empowering for some, it's not a cure-all. It's important to approach it with a critical eye and be aware of its limitations.
Absolutely. It's about finding that balance between acknowledging external realities and personal agency.
So how does the secret address different areas of life, like relationships and finances?
Well, when it comes to relationships, the secret really encourages radiating self-love and visualizing the qualities you want in a partner. The idea is that you'll attract someone who reflects those positive vibes back at you.
Yeah, and Byrne shares that story about someone who visualized their perfect partner and then ended up meeting someone who fit the description perfectly.
Right. But again, we have to consider all the other things that might have been going on. Maybe this person became more confident because they were focusing on self-love, and that made them more approachable. It's also possible that they were just more open to seeing a good match when they came across it.
Like they say, you find love when you're not looking for it. Maybe it's not about actively searching, but just creating the right conditions within yourself to be ready for a healthy relationship.
That's a great point. And as far as finances go, the secret really emphasizes visualizing abundance. It's about shifting from a mindset of scarcity to believing that there's enough for everyone.
And there's that story about people achieving financial independence through practicing gratitude. They would focus on being thankful for what they had, and it seemed to open them up to receiving even more.
Now, whether that's due to some mystical law of attraction or just a byproduct of having a more positive outlook is debatable. But what's really valuable here is the idea that what we believe can actually shape our reality.
So if we believe we deserve abundance, we're more likely to notice opportunities and take risks that can lead to financial success.
Right, exactly. It's about recognizing that our thoughts can become self-fulfilling prophecies. If we constantly focus on what we're lacking, we might miss out on opportunities for growth and prosperity.
That reminds me of another important point. The secret isn't about just sitting back and waiting for money to magically appear. It's about taking action, just like with anything else in life.
Absolutely. Visualizing your dream job is great, but you also need to update your resume and start applying. Visualizing a healthier body is a good starting point, but you need to follow through with healthy eating and exercise. It's about aligning your actions with your intentions.
So it's recognizing the power of our thoughts, but also understanding that we need to take concrete steps to achieve our goals. It's like a partnership between mindset and action.
Exactly. And it reminds me of another interesting point that the secret makes. It's important to really feel those emotions that go along with achieving your desired outcome. It's not enough to just think about it. You have to actually feel it.
So if you're visualizing financial abundance, you should also try to feel the joy, the gratitude, the freedom that comes with financial security.
That's it. It's like you're embodying the feeling of having already reached your goal, which can be incredibly motivating, and it can actually draw those experiences into your life.
Okay, that makes sense. And that brings us back to those affirmations that we were talking about earlier. How does just repeating those positive statements play into all of this?
Affirmations are really fascinating because they tap into that power of self-suggestion. It's about making a conscious choice to focus on positive thoughts and beliefs instead of letting that negative self-talk take over.
So in the book, Byrne gives that example of someone who really wanted to improve their self-confidence, and they would repeat affirmations like, I am confident and capable, or I believe in myself, all day long.
And the idea is that by consistently repeating those statements, they start to reprogram their brain. They begin to believe those statements, and that leads to actual changes in their behavior and how they see themselves.
So it's like planting seeds of confidence in your mind and then nurturing them until they grow into this strong sense of self-worth.
Exactly. And it all ties back into this bigger theme of personal responsibility. The secret really argues that we have the power to choose our thoughts, and by doing so, we can shape our reality.
That's a powerful idea, but it also raises the question, does the secret work for everyone? What about people who genuinely try to apply these principles, but they just don't see the results they're hoping for?
That's a really complex question, and I think it's important to acknowledge that the secret isn't a one-size-fits-all formula. Results can definitely vary depending on a lot of different things, like how deeply someone believes, how clear their intentions are, and how willing they are to take action.
That makes sense. Byrne also talks about the importance of what she calls releasing resistance, which is a pretty interesting concept.
Right. It is. It's about recognizing and then letting go of those limiting beliefs doubts and fears that might be preventing you from achieving what you want.
So if you're always worried about failing, are you actually creating this energetic barrier that keeps you from succeeding?
That's exactly the idea. It's like
Yeah.
trying to drive with the parking brake on. You might be putting in a lot of effort, but you're also holding yourself back.
But how do we actually release that resistance? It sounds a lot easier said than done.
It's a process. And it takes self-awareness and being willing to challenge those ingrained negative beliefs. Byrne suggests things like affirmations, visualization, and practicing gratitude to help shift your mindset toward positivity and possibility.
So it sounds like it takes a lot of commitment and dedication to actually make it work.
Definitely, it's not some quick fix. It's more like a journey of personal growth and transformation.
Right. And that actually reminds me of another key point that Byrne makes. The process of manifestation often involves a period of what she calls incubation.
Right, it's like planting a seed. You don't see the sprout right away. There's that period of time where the seed is underground and it seems like nothing's happening. But actually, it's growing and developing beneath the surface.
So even if we don't see immediate results, that doesn't mean our efforts are wasted.
Exactly. It just means things are working behind the scenes. And eventually, your dreams will blossom.
That's actually really reassuring. It makes me think of that quote, "Ask once, believe you have received, and all you have to do to receive is feel good." But how do we balance that idea with the fact that sometimes things just don't turn out the way we want them to?
That's a great question. And it brings up another really important point. The role of surrender. The secret says we need to let go of our attachment to specific outcomes and trust that the universe has a plan for us, even if it's not the exact plan we had in mind.
So it's about trusting the process, staying positive, and believing that things are working out for our highest good, even if it doesn't look like it at the moment.
Exactly. It takes a certain amount of faith and a willingness to relinquish control.
But it also makes me wonder, how much control do we actually have over our lives? Is it all about mindset and manifestation, or is there some element of fate or destiny involved?
Now, that's a question that philosophers have been trying to figure out for centuries. The secret doesn't really give us a clear answer on that one. But its focus on personal creation suggests that we have a pretty significant degree of control.
But it does acknowledge that there are things beyond our control that can influence our experiences.
Right. So maybe it's about finding that middle ground, taking responsibility for the choices we make, but also accepting that some things are simply out of our hands.
It's a complicated and multifaceted topic that definitely warrants more reflection and exploration.
It really is. And it's one of the reasons why The Secret, even though it seems pretty simple on the surface, has generated so much discussion about reality and the power of the human mind.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground here. We've talked about the law of attraction, the power of visualization, the importance of taking inspired action, and the need to let go of resistance. But what about those times when life throws us a curveball? How do we stay positive in the face of setbacks and challenges?
That's where the book's emphasis on gratitude really comes into play. Byrne argues that gratitude isn't just some feel-good emotion. It's a powerful tool for attracting more abundance and joy into our lives.
Yeah, she tells those stories about people who completely turned their lives around by making gratitude a daily practice. They would focus on what they were thankful for, even when things were really tough.
Right, and there's more and more research coming out to support the idea that gratitude can have a huge positive impact on our well-being. Studies show that practicing gratitude can help reduce stress, improve your sleep, and even strengthen your immune system.
So even if we're not totally convinced that we can manifest $1 million just by thinking about it, there's still a lot of value in just being grateful for what we already have.
Absolutely. It's about shifting our perspective from what we're lacking to what we already have. And that can be incredibly empowering, especially when we're dealing with challenges.
It reminds me of that quote, "Gratitude unlocks the fullness of life. It turns what we have into enough and more. It turns denial into acceptance, chaos to order, confusion to clarity. It can turn a meal into a feast, a house into a home, a stranger into a friend."
That's beautiful. Gratitude is all about appreciating the present moment, finding joy in the simple things, and acknowledging the good that's already there in our lives.
And it's not just about feeling grateful, it's about actually expressing it. Byrne encourages us to express gratitude to others, whether it's a simple thank you or a really heartfelt letter of appreciation.
It's about recognizing the good that others bring into our lives and remembering that we're not alone on this journey.
Okay, so we've talked about the importance of gratitude, but what about those times when we're really struggling with negative thoughts and emotions? How does The Secret address that?
Well, Byrne really emphasizes the importance of self-love and forgiveness. She argues that we need to treat ourselves with kindness and compassion, just like we would treat a loved one.
And she suggests replacing that negative self-talk with positive affirmations and focusing on our strengths instead of dwelling on our weaknesses.
Right, it's about recognizing that we're all perfectly imperfect, and we deserve love and acceptance just as we are.
That's such a powerful message, especially in a world that's constantly telling us we need to be striving for perfection.
Exactly. The Secret encourages us to let go of that need for perfection and embrace the imperfections that make us unique and beautiful.
And it reminds us that self-love isn't selfish, it's essential. When we love and accept ourselves, we become a magnet for love, abundance, and joy.
It's like that saying, you can't pour from an empty cup. We need to fill ourselves up with love and compassion before we can truly give it to others.
So we've explored the power of gratitude, the importance of self-love, and the need to let go of resistance. But what about the bigger picture? How does The Secret address the spiritual side of life?
Burns suggests that we're not just physical beings, but also energetic beings who are connected to something larger than ourselves.
She talks about the importance of intuition, inner guidance, and trusting in a higher power.
And she encourages readers to explore their own spiritual beliefs and connect with their own sense of purpose.
It's about recognizing that there's more to life than what we can see and touch, that we're all part of something bigger than ourselves.
It's a reminder to cultivate a sense of wonder and awe and reverence for the mysteries of life.
And to trust that we're being guided and supported on our journey, even when we don't understand the hows and whys.
It's a beautiful message of hope, connection, and the infinite possibilities that open up when we open ourselves to the unseen forces at work in the universe.
That's amazing. But how do we reconcile this idea of a spiritual connection with the emphasis on personal responsibility?
That's a great question. And honestly, it's not one that The Secret explicitly answers. Maybe it's about recognizing that we're both co-creators of our reality and participants in a larger cosmic dance.
So we have the power to choose our thoughts and actions, but we're also part of a grander plan that we may not fully comprehend.
Exactly. It's this dance between free will and destiny, personal agency, and surrendering to the flow of life.
And it's a dance that each of us navigates in our own way.
But we don't have to do it alone. The Secret reminds us that we're all connected and that we can draw strength and support from each other, our communities, and the universe itself.
I love that. It's a great reminder that we're never truly alone, and there's always something to be grateful for, even when things are tough.
Absolutely. And it's a message that really resonates with people from all walks of life, offering a beacon of hope and light in a world that can sometimes feel overwhelming.
So we've explored the power of gratitude, the importance of self-love, and the need to release resistance. We've talked about the need to take inspired action, the importance of letting go of specific outcomes, and the power of forgiveness.
We've also discussed that balance between personal responsibility and trusting the universe, and the overall message of possibility that's at the core of The Secret.
And we've looked at how these concepts can be applied to different areas of life, like relationships, finances, health, and spirituality.
But there's one more fascinating aspect that we need to explore: the connection between our thoughts and our physical health.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about manifesting like external stuff, the dream job, the perfect relationship, financial abundance. But what about those qualities we want on the inside, like self-confidence, inner peace, having a sense of purpose? Does The Secret work the same way when it comes to those more like intangible aspirations?
That's a really good question. And I think it kind of gets at the heart of what The Secret is really all about. Even if we leave aside that whole debate about manifesting material things, there's still that powerful message about how our thoughts and beliefs can totally transform us.
Right. Like, I wonder if it's easier to visualize something really concrete, like a new car, versus something more abstract, like being truly happy with your life.
That's an interesting point. With those tangible goals, it's pretty clear whether you've succeeded or not, right? Like, you either got the car or you didn't. But with those inner qualities, it's much harder to measure. How do you measure self-confidence or inner peace? It's so much more subjective.
Yeah, and maybe that's where the real challenge lies. It's one thing to make a vision board with pictures of your dream house, but it's a whole other thing to work on the patience and the resilience and the self-awareness you need to feel truly at peace.
I think you're right. And that's where I think The Secret, even though it focuses so much on the law of attraction, it also highlights how important that inner work is.
Yeah.
It's not just about attracting stuff into your life, but becoming the kind of person who can actually appreciate and receive those things.
So it's not just about changing things around you, but like transforming yourself from the inside out.
Exactly. And that's a journey that requires a lot more than just positive thinking. It takes real self-reflection, honesty, and being willing to face those limiting beliefs that might be holding you back.
It reminds me of that Marianne Williamson quote. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us.
Oh, that's such a great quote. And I think it really speaks to that transformative potential that The Secret is getting at. Maybe it's not just about getting what we want, but about becoming the best version of ourselves, embracing both the light and the dark parts of who we are, and really stepping into our true power.
That's a really powerful thought. It brings us back to that original question. Does The Secret really live up to all the hype? I think the answer is more complicated than just a yes or no.
Yeah, I agree. It's a book that really makes you think and question your assumptions. And it definitely gets you thinking about the incredible power of our own minds. Whether we fully believe in the law of attraction or not, there's something valuable in just exploring these ideas.
Absolutely. And I think the biggest takeaway here is that we have more agency than we realize. We have the power to choose our thoughts, to practice gratitude, to love ourselves, and to take action that moves us toward our goals, both the ones out in the world and the ones within us.
Well said. Even if we don't end up manifesting everything we want, that process of consciously creating our reality is still a journey worth taking.
That's a perfect note to end on. I think we've covered a lot in our deep dive into The Secret. We've gone over the main principles, the techniques, the potential benefits, and even some of the criticisms.
We've explored the need to take action, let go of limiting beliefs, and the power of forgiveness.
We talked about finding that balance between personal responsibility and trusting the universe. And of course, that big message of possibility that's at the heart of The Secret.
We've also looked at how all of these ideas can be applied to different areas of life. Relationships, finances, health, spirituality, it's all connected.
And that's about it for today. We encourage you to keep thinking about these ideas and see what resonates with you. And maybe try applying some of these principles to your own life and see what happens. Remember, you have the power within you to create your own reality. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.